Welcome, everybody. This is episode 18 of We the Parents podcast. 18 episodes. I started this a long time ago and didn't think I would do 18 episodes, but I sort of enjoy doing this. And my guest today is Edrienne Edwards. Edrienne, how are you?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Yay.
You were, as it shows on our screen, you are the current Miss Utah for America.
Yes, I'm the current 2021. I was just crowned about 3 weekends ago on a Saturday in March, and we're hitting the ground running. My national pageant is the Miss for America pageant. It's the newest pageant, maybe only about 2 years old, 3 years old. It is the sister pageant of the Mrs. America pageant, which has been going on since 1933. So It's a very reputable system. And they decided, hey, let's pull in not just Miss contestants that are 18 to 26. And once they hit that 26-year-old range, they've maxed out. You can never compete again. The Mrs. America pageant decided to create this Miss program so that people who are widows, women who are widows or divorced or single at any age can compete. And if you're willing to put in the hard work and represent a great cause, they want you.
When do you think we're going to, and I may be putting my foot in my mouth here, when do you think we're going to have transgender invitations? So if I want to be Mrs. wherever, do you think I could compete? I mean, I'm pretty.
Of course, you're beautiful. Who wouldn't want you on stage in a bikini and heels?
I wouldn't. You guys do a lot of work to be able to do that, and I don't do that sort of maintenance, you know? I cut the grass outside, but not on me. All right. So that's probably one of the funniest introductions that we've had so far. So I appreciate that.
Good.
So there's a reason why you're here. It's not because you're Miss United States. It's not because you're Mrs. Utah. It's not because you're beautiful or a woman. Why are you here? What are you doing on my show? What are we talking about? And how does it relate to, I want you to tell everybody who you are, what your experiences have been as it relates, and what you're using your platform for. Again, I can't be Mrs. Amazingly Beautiful, but I can do a podcast. So we use our platforms and we use our skills. I let you hear some of my music and all that. And we briefly discussed things on Facebook before we got online. And we talked about using our gifts and our pain for purpose. So
absolutely.
All that thing. I'm sorry, I talk more than my guests sometimes. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you do. Give us your experience and what you use your current status and platform for.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to have an extension of that platform, to be able to come here and voice what we know, what we've learned, what we've gone through, so that we can actually make a difference in our corner of the world or throughout the world. Because, we all go through similar challenges. And what I went through, there are currently at this time in the United States, over 25 million similar parents who are experiencing what I went through. And that is parental alienation. Now, the reason, a little bit about me, I compete in pageants solely for the purpose of having that national or worldwide platform. It is a powerful voice. And for those of us who are everyday citizens like me, it's often difficult to have an audience with senators or legislatures. And if there's something that's gravely wrong in our society, it is easiest for someone like me who loves pageants, who has had experience in pageants from my senior year in high school and on. I've learned how to maybe excel in pageants. And because of the tradition of standing for different really important causes in the world or through our nation, throughout the world as well, pageants have typically a tradition of promoting good causes and really bringing awareness to issues that may not have enough awareness, which is where I come in. in the past, and so I was born. I'll back up a little bit, just so you can get to know me a little more.
Yeah,
please. I was born and raised on the beautiful garden island of Kaua'i. And I just, went to Kaua'i Elementary School, Waimea Canyon School on the way to the canyons, and graduated from Waimea High School. Go Menehune! You're like, what is that? We kind of nobody knows. It looks like our mascot a Menehune looks like a little magical elf, almost like a Smurf. Our colors are blue. It has this blue Smurf hat, but I can give you more details on the actual myth. And not really myth. It's actually, anyway, look up Menehune. It's another side story.
How do you spell that? How do you spell it for me?
Okay. Menehune. The Menehune. It's not really a myth. And we can talk about that another time.
We like to have sidebar education. Sidebar. Boom.
Well, sidebar. Here's this. Yes. Menehune.
Look that up. Did I spell that right?
Yes, perfect.
Look that up right now so you can see the tiny blue Smurf-like elf creature.
Exactly. That was our high school mascot and our middle school mascot. And I will tell you that was, I attended the westernmost elementary school in the United States out of all 50 states, and the westernmost middle school and the westernmost high school in the United States. Out of the 50
cheating when you're in Hawaii, you're going to be the westernmost state, right?
I know, but it's kind of a cute little useless piece of trivia, but my schools were not. They prepared us for an awesome future, which I give all the credit to our schools and my parents, but my schools, they taught me the legislative process. Wow. From Kaua'i Elementary School, go Pueo, that's the owls. And I won't make you spell Pueo.
So much Hawaiian education right now.
I know. We love
Americans.
Stories, so.
I say Americans just think Hawaii that's just a place that we bought so we can go on vacation in a nice place.
I know.
I know. We never, but I don't know anything about Hawaii.
Oh, don't get me started. You'll have to invite me later on another episode to talk about the illegal overthrow of our monarchy and how Hawaii was acquired illegally by the United States. That's a good discussion.
I'm pretty sure we took this whole country in a terrible way. That America isn't as beautiful as we were told in our government schools, but it can be. The legacy can be. That we can take those ideals and those false stories and actually create true ones. But we still need to learn. We should be teaching our children what really happened. And I think we have this false narrative of how America became great. And really the people who made it great weren't all that great. And the ones who really did make it great were the people like you and me, the hardworking men and women that were just good people looking for an opportunity. And unfortunately, a lot of our founders and government officials and even men and women of industry, or mostly men back then, but they were not the nicest people. Now there were some good outcomes with some of their innovations, like steel and roads and the car, and but there's a lot of criminals in the United States of America, that we look at as founders of this great country. But yes, I think we need to not necessarily rewrite history, but tell what it is, and then take those American, tell those American ideals that we based our history on and actually live them. Don't just preach about them.
Yes. So invite me back if you ever want to hear about the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy. Our last reigning queen.
We'll do a special episode. I might have to start a whole new show called The Real History.
The Real History.
The real history. And then maybe you just be a co-host.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll talk about the real brutal history. So tell us your story.
Right. So kind of going back to my roots in Hawaii, when I grew up on the island of Kauai, my schools prepared me for the legislative process. They prepared me to be a leader in our community in Hawaii, as well as throughout the United States. And I was groomed to be a community leader. And I was groomed with such a great education and understanding of the legislative process that when I saw an opportunity back in 2004 I competed for the Mrs. Texas pageant, and I went on and competed for the Mrs. United States pageant because there was a topic that was not public. All we were hearing about back then, and this is regarding postpartum depression.
Right.
There wasn't information when I was going through it. When I gave birth to my first son, Logan, in 2000, I went through postpartum depression, and I looked online for my symptoms. I typed and typed and typed, and there was nothing back in 2000 on postpartum depression. It was taken out of the medical books for about 30 years. So doctors were not taught about postpartum depression for a period of 30 years.
Wow.
Any medical students and physicians. So it was kind of interesting. So what happened was I had been in a marriage where it was about 10 and a half years, and it was really rough. It was the first time I'd ever experienced depression. So I had depression before I had postpartum depression. We just were not a good fit.
Right.
As husband and wife. And so there was a lot of conflict. I'm the peacemaker. I'm the doormat. And if
the empathetic one, the
people pleaser. And that doesn't bodes very well when you're with someone that is a strong personality and very set in their ways. And especially being Hawaiian, I love being happy. We were taught to be happy and positive no matter what. And you just keep plugging along, and it's all about sharing your love and hard work and doing things for others, compassionate service. That was something we grew up with. And so what happened was the depression was exacerbated during the pregnancy. And when I gave birth, the hormone levels were so off that I fell into the deepest depression that I couldn't even take a shower for about 2 weeks. I could not crawl out of bed.
Wow.
And this is, this is somebody who was experienced in pageantry, and appearances are very important. I could not crawl my way to the shower. And I didn't have the kind of support that I needed. And it was very difficult. So I was spiraling into a depression. That's just not my personality. I knew something was wrong. Eventually, after a second baby, after I gave birth, 9 months later, there was a second baby. And Kainoa, he's my younger son. And I just have two sons. And it was the same. I was going through the exact same thing. The depression was horrendous. And now I'd been in a marriage that was by all typical standards, emotionally and mentally and psychologically abusive. Occasionally physical abuse was a part of that relationship. But it was more of the mental anguish and mental abuse, emotional abuse that was very life altering. And when you're going through postpartum depression and you're not getting any sleep, and you're the only one caring for your newborn, and then another little one comes along, and you have no rest at all, it's just one really bad situation about to explode. And so I was asking for help. I was begging for help. I didn't know who to ask. And then it's embarrassing because I didn't know what was going on. Well, all of a sudden, Marie Osmond pops up, and I see her on television. I don't know what year it was, 2000, 2001, sometime maybe 2001. And I see her on television, and she's describing what I felt and what I was experiencing. Exactly. She said she just jumped in a car after giving birth to one of her children. She felt like jumping in a car and just driving away and just escaping the depression, escaping this complete loneliness. And there's a lot to it, but I never experienced postpartum psychosis, which at the time we were hearing of a lot of mothers drowning their babies in bathtubs, or they were taking their own lives, or their children's lives and their lives.
Now, what is that term called? Is that called filicide?
I
think I've heard that term as it relates to that, where parents take the lives and their lives of themselves and their children.
Okay. I'm not sure if it's filicide, or because I always want to think it starts with pedia, like Pediaside or
Pedialyte.
Pedialyte. Yeah.
Pediatrician.
Right. And so I don't know. Filicide, it must be. Filicide sounds like it could be, because a man. So very well could be, or brother, I guess, it could be. So anyway, with that situation, I knew I needed help, and I was asking for help. And I asked my doctors, I asked my OBGYN, I asked his physician assistant, and she said, it's all in your head. There's no such thing as postpartum depression. These were professionals who worked with women who gave birth. And I said, Adrienne Edwards is not a depressed person at all.
And you're not going insane.
I'm not going insane. I said, I am sad. And here's something interesting. When you give birth to a child, there is a heightened sense of protectiveness that a mother has. And at least I had it, a heightened sense of protectiveness. So you're aware of sharp edges. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh, what if I accidentally push my son into that and smash his head?
And
it was
that whole scenario goes through your head.
Yes. And then you start thinking, oh my gosh, what if I'm the one who opens the oven and he crawls in? It's horrible because you have this heightened sense of worry that your child or children, or your newborn, is going to be injured or hurt. And all of a sudden there's some kind of, because of the lack of sleep, because of whatever hormones are all mixed up, you have all kinds of strange thoughts. And I never wanted to hurt my children, but I imagined, what if I accidentally push them and I could picture the scenarios, and it scared me. So all the more I was even more protective. But if it advances to a stage of postpartum psychosis, that's when a mother may take it out on her children. And that's very rare. Anyway, so knowing how serious this was, thank you, Marie Osmond, for being able to have the courage to share your experience on television. That was the only way I could go to another nurse in another medical clinic and say, okay, my OBGYN and his physician assistant said, it's all in my head, that I'm making this up, that there's no such thing. I know this is something. Because anybody who knows me knows I'm a positive person, and this I can't shake. So she immediately said, oh my gosh, let's put you on something. I took a low dosage of a medication that was meant for anxiety and depression. The very next day, I was taking a shower, sweeping the floors, and singing. For 2 years, I had not sung to my little babies. And I love to sing. I'm like you, Chris. I love to sing in the shower, in the backyard, while you're driving. I'm a rock star in my car on I-15 in Utah. And my mom performed around the world with her hula troupe. She was a singer. She was a dancer. She was a performer. I grew up on the stage. I love the stage. I love music. I play the piano. I love to sing. Karaoke, or karaoke, as some people pronounce it. Karaoke is the Japanese way to
say it funny.
Karaoke.
Karaoke.
We speak Japanese.
Yes, we do.
It's karaoke. So so anyway, the whole point being, I love to sing. And if Adrienne is not singing for 2 years straight, something's really not right. So she, within one day, she warned me, it'll probably take 2 weeks, maybe a month for you to really start noticing some normalcy, and maybe stop crying so much and stop feeling so dark and lonely. One day, lowest dosage, 20 milligrams of
what was it?
A helpful medication. It happened to be Paxil. And
Paxil, I've heard of all of these. Yeah,
it's difficult. It's difficult to get off of it, so I'm still on it till today. 20 milligrams.
Yeah, Paxil, Zoloft, and then anxiety meds would be what is it? Not hydrocodone. What is it? What's the one they take for anxiety?
Oh gosh, there's so many now.
And they mix, and depression meds and anxiety meds are close, so they'll prescribe you one or the other for one or the other. Right. It wasn't Zoloft. It was and some people in my family take it too for anxiety. I have anxiety, but I usually deal with that at the gym or singing or
Xanax.
Xanax is one of them, but I can't remember. If it pops in my head, I don't know why it doesn't, because it would if I wasn't in the middle of a live broadcast. But when you're talking, it'll come in my mind, and I'm going to interrupt you just so you know, because if I don't, I'll forget it. So yeah, along with all that, postpartum, and I can tell you that that my ex has dealt with that, along with maybe possible other things. And it was some scary stuff, where I sort of mentioned to you before we came on the air that I moved to Nashville. We had just, she had just birthed a child. We didn't just birth a child. We just had a child. She birthed it. And then she moved to Nashville, and it was a lot of strain, I think, looking back on it now, where I didn't understand it because I felt fine. And I was actually excited to be pursuing music in Nashville and have my kid and my girlfriend at the time and have my family there. So I was sort of complete. Whereas she didn't feel the same way. And I was out, I was working a lot of hours as a restaurant manager. I was gone a lot. She had just moved, and I'd already made some friends. I moved there a few months prior. I was established. I was meeting people. I was playing music. I was going out. And, at the time I didn't recognize so much what her issue was, because here I am paying for everything. I'm a fairly honest person. I was doing things she didn't like if I was out playing and I was drinking or something like that. She was, worried about me and somebody else in particular. None of that was actually ever true. So that was something that always made me angry, was the jealousy and the insecurity. But definitely dealt with that postpartum issues through both of our kids. During our second child, she said something to me that scared me a lot, which was, very surprising. And I think I still have it saved too. Was basically like, you did this to me. I didn't even want this baby. And our kid was like, a few months old, maybe a month or 2 months old, maybe at the time. And that hit me as such a strange thing to say. And even as men men have anxieties. And I don't know if we have what's called postpartum. We go through our own chemical changes. A lot of people don't know that. Scientifically proven that men go through chemical changes when they become parents, psychological, chemical. It does happen. It's just not necessarily connected with the immediate birth, the physical aspect of birthing a child. It comes with the environmental changes and just, different chemicals react in your brain. It's stuff we don't talk about with men and women. If men and women spent more time understanding the fact that we both have strengths and we both have dysfunctions, and that we were designed to complement each other, not to compete with each other. And I think what's been created, obviously, and we'll get into the family law aspect of it, is this adversarial battle of genders and control and assets. And it's breaking us apart. It's look, if you want to end your marriage, I'll give you some of his stuff, or you can have the kids, or you guys can fight over the kids, and the lawyers make a lot of money, and the kid is an asset, and we monetize the child. And it's really created over the last 50 years. If you look at the divorce rate and the out of wedlock birth rate, which are both on the rise, and all this dysfunction with mass shootings. And we know the tie with many people's work, including Dr. Warren Farrell, who ties in mass shooters and the relationship to fatherlessness and the amount of fatherlessness. It's a pandemic. It's a real issue. It's destroying more lives than COVID ever will. And we talk about the family law industry, and you're an activist as well, which is why you're on the show. Your platform is as a pageant winner and a pageant participator. And you are one of the ones who actually uses their position, not as a beauty contest, not just to get attention, but to use it as a platform that's necessary. Where some may run for office, some may write songs, some start a podcast. This is what you do. Now, tell us what you do, why you do it. Tell us your story there, not just with the postpartum, but what happened in your case with your alienation, your divorce, your custody battle, your experience in the courtroom. Let's talk about that.
Yes. And kind of before I get into that story, just so our viewers realize that there is legitimacy to the efficacy of a pageant platform. When I won Mrs. United States 2004, within 2 days, I was able to appear on the Dr. Phil show, promoting my platform on postpartum depression awareness.
Yeah.
And so that women could recognize the symptoms, their husbands could recognize the symptoms, encouraging families and friends and coworkers to reach out to these women when they noticed, hey, my coworker or my sister-in-law is not right. There's something she's not herself. Does she need help? And so what I did after appearing on the Dr. Phil show, by the way, Dr. Phil is so freaking awesome.
I want Dr. Phil on this show. Can you get a hold of him?
Yes, I'll reach out.
If you can do that, I mean, you were a former guest. My mom has been saying you need to write Dr. Phil every day because he knows he's an advocate for alienation and against pro parental rights. And you don't. He always says you do not want to bring your kids and yourselves into a family court.
Right. Absolutely. And here's kind of a trick, just a little bit of legitimacy here. So after I appeared on the Dr. Phil show, which he's phenomenal, I was able to become a national spokesperson for several different organizations, including some in Washington, D.C., and including being able to speak all over the nation to medical professionals, to OBGYN, doctors, physician's assistants who dealt with new mothers, new births in the hospitals. They were the frontline people in this cause. And yet many of them were clueless about this. So I was able to speak all over the United States. And also because of my title, I was able to get the support from national organizations, including pharma. And I forgot what the organization was, National Mental Health Institute. Family. Anyway, I'm so sorry about that. And I'll tell you why.
I'm still trying to remember the drug that I'm thinking about.
You'll come out. You'll be like,
I'm Googling it right now.
Okay. So in the meantime, I was because of the national title that gave me credibility because people knew that I knew that topic very well. And I was not afraid of public speaking. I love public speaking and I love legislation. So I was able to go to Capitol Hill and lobby for legislative change, for legislation that mandated and provided for the means to screen all new mothers across the United States. And this was in a time that nobody talked about postpartum depression until it was too late. And they saw, the murders on television. And
the stories never dug into why. And they would either create a narrative. It's the same as male suicides or, when we have alienating parents that kill the other parent, they go, oh, there was a domestic dispute over custody. And that's all we talk about.
Yes, unfortunately.
And the news doesn't want to get to the root of the issues.
Right, exactly. And yeah. Could you repeat the last thing you said? It cut out and I couldn't hear you.
That the news doesn't want to talk about what the underlying issues are. It will just give us a blanket statement of, oh, there was a murder. We think that there was a domestic dispute, maybe over custody. Okay. You're like, oh, okay. That makes sense. They're just crazy.
Right.
You don't know. Yeah. You don't know the whole backstory and maybe it developed over years. There was a gentleman, John Mast, who was murdered just a few months ago. And he was a father fighting for his kids for 3 years. He was alienated, false allegations, this and that. The news never talked about it. It just gave a blanket statement of a custody battle. And that his ex's father murdered him when he was going to finally pick up his kids for the first time for a non oversighted visit, because he had been having visits with his kids that were, he had to have somebody there with him. And they were, a few hours a day. This was just like his first visit with his kids in 3 years. That was just going to be him and them. And it was going to be like an overnight or whatever it was for the weekend, something, because he had won his court battle against false allegations. He was murdered. And really, that hasn't been covered since. And we know the story because John was an advocate. He was involved. We know him personally.
Yes.
And so that's why we're doing this. That's why I have my show, is bringing awareness to the fact that I'm telling you and you're telling everyone that news is not telling the story because it doesn't want the industry to change, because the industry is flourishing with destroying human beings in our children, because they're selling us the medicine.
It's disgusting. Yes.
You know, whether it's pharmaceuticals or jail or murder or gun control or whatever government is using to control us more comes from brokenness. And where do you start? Well, rip the family apart.
Right. Exactly.
And then we're easy to manipulate.
Right. So true.
So go ahead and tell us. So the Dr. Phil show, you got to go on
Dr.
Dr.
Phil. Yes. And he was amazing. He's such an amazing, intelligent human being on so many different human behavioral and psychological and emotional and relationship type issues. It's just phenomenal to have been a part of that. And his producers, down to his cameramen and makeup artists, they're so plugged in. They're so compassionate. I had such a wonderful experience. Now, fast forward 2 years, maybe a year and a half. I had come to a point where I knew it was very dangerous, and I knew I needed to get out of the marriage. So I'm peaceful. I'm Hawaiian. We don't like conflict. We like everybody being taken care of and happy. Yeah. I decided, and the Dr. Phil show wanted me to come back on as a follow-up. And I said, I'm so sorry, and then the producers called and I said, I can't, I'm actually going to be in the middle of a divorce here. And I'm going to file, I'm going to file for divorce. But I wanted to file online to minimize any trauma to the children. I did not want any trauma. So I told them, I said, I'm going to stipulate in my online divorce, 50-50 custody. I wanted shared parenting. And I wanted no child support either way. When you have the kids, you take care of them.
I should have married you.
I know.
Oh my God. You had the right idea right off the bat.
Yes, I did.
Wow. Talk about equality just being shoved down your throat.
I know.
On this equality.
I don't need your child support money.
Oh my
I'm
God,
a big girl.
Yeah, right? You want equality? Get a job.
Exactly. And I worked. I paid for master's degrees in that marriage. I was working the whole time. And
here's the thing. Before I interrupt and I do that, I'm so sorry.
No,
the reason, what is the thing that they always tell us? Well, they tell us that the reason that you should get child support and alimony is because most likely, what if you're not making as much as he does? So then you're deserving of that. But in order to be deserving of that, we got to take the kids from him. All right. Because that's our excuse to extort him or her is because the kids are the excuse. So the courts don't really do what's in the best interest. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it is such a broken system to begin with. I was shocked. That people didn't do it that way. I said, well, kids need both parents, even though my ex and I didn't get along, did not mean that my children should be out one parent, and certainly, father or mother.
Right.
They
and I'm
still
assuming he was a good father, right?
He loved the kids. The kids loved them.
They had a good relationship to where you felt it was safe.
Like, I didn't worry that. I just assumed we would all live pretty close by and co-parent peacefully and go on. And so it was kind of sad that Dr. Phil had asked me at that time for a follow-up, here's what Dr. Phil did. He stepped in and his producer said, hey, we talked to Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil wants to do your mediation so you don't go to court and tear the family apart and have this big battle. And I said, well, I don't want to go anyway, but I'd love to do the mediation. Yeah. So I begged my ex and he was all against it.
Of course not.
He had other plans.
Yeah.
So I filed the divorce online peacefully. And at that time, you could only go through Nevada. The state of Nevada was the only one that had an online divorce system at the time. So I filed my paperwork with them. And then it was what Sylvester Stallone and a lot of the other stars that may have had a divorce, they had to go through online to get it done quickly. It was too scary. Things were coming to head on many levels, and it was just not a safe environment to be in anymore.
Right.
So what I did was I filed online, 50-50 custody, no child support either way. And I had to fly to Dominican Republic to get it solved there or in their court system. It was kind of interesting, but fun, nice. Nice
now,
little mini vacation.
Why is it not being handled in your state? I guess I'm confused, and maybe some of my viewers are.
Because if I had filed in North Carolina, it would have had to have gone through the court system in person, and each person would have had to appear in court. And I didn't want it to be traumatizing. Here. I was in North Carolina at the time.
That's where I live.
Yes.
So why are you allowed to? I'm confused because as far as I know, you have to file in the state that you reside.
So at the time, Nevada was the only state that allowed for anybody from any other state. If you wanted an immediate divorce within 30 days, or you had to file, and then within 30 days, you could get the divorce finalized in the Dominican, you could come from any state. And I could not go on. The relationship was so damaging, and it was so abusive, very abusive, very dark place. And I just wanted to have my children share, be great co-parents, and do the best for the kids, putting the kids first.
Right.
And so anyway, what happened was, before North Carolina, we had lived just a couple of years in North Carolina. Before that, we were in Texas for many years. And that's where my ex was from originally. And so he encouraged me to go back to Texas because that's where the big jobs were. And he said he would go back, but he wanted to babysit the kids. So I said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Because he had never really babysat the kids all that much during the marriage.
Right.
I was working. I was taking care of the kids. I brought them to work with me. So anyway, I was a little worried, but he promised he wouldn't do anything. And 4 months later,
he took him.
Basically.
I knew you were setting that up.
Yeah. And he filed for 100% custody and child support, full child support from me. And between the time, and he said initially that he was going to come as soon as he could get a job. I'll come tomorrow. Don't worry. He never came back to Texas. And he ended up, during the 4 months that I was there, not allowing me to talk to the children.
Yeah, and what they should do is create laws that extradite the children back and recognize this as kidnapping, because it's parental kidnapping. But what they do is they have so many laws that force you to go to court and hire attorneys to do all this,
right?
Instead of protecting. There's nothing about laws that are about protection. It's all a money racket.
It is a money racket.
Yeah.
It is a money racket. And so I was paying child support, child support basically, even before, just because I knew I was going away. Let me help contribute, because you're keeping the kids. And I didn't know how long it would go on, but it went on for 4 months. As soon as I got a great corporate job, he was nagging me. Where are you working? How much are you making? And I get that also. Clueless here. I'm like, oh, I got a great job.
Just telling them, because you're just being nice. You're just communicating. So you don't think that I'm very open too, and it's been used against me.
Yes.
These people are manipulative. They are Googling, they are asking attorneys what they need to do to set things up. So I could have been set up for years.
Yes.
You got to get him in trouble. Well, let's just upset people until they do something stupid. Right. While I was at work, there were probably many days spent on the smartphone looking for ways to plan ahead. And that's what it sounds like he did. Was he was doing research. He was researching, and you were just trying to be a decent human being.
Yeah. Trust everybody. Aloha.
Aloha.
Yeah. So let me aloha. Yeah, I know. I got the aloha, the big aloha. So it was horrendous, and I cannot even begin to start, but I will. It is all about money. Yes. I've seen some of the posts. It is all about money. So I learned the hard way that our local family court systems are so corrupt. Many of them are so corrupt. They don't have there is no due process in any of these court systems. They just decide, let me see, any, meaning,
judge's discretion.
Let me pick which spouse I want to go with.
Which one would benefit the financial situation of us?
Right. Exactly.
Yep. Who's got the money? Who's willing to fight the longest? How are we going to profit?
Yeah. And they knew that I had more financial backing and that I was going to fight for my children. So they took the children away from me. Yep. And what was so sad is I I had never been responsible for any physical abuse towards the kids or my ex ever. And what they did was they supposedly did an investigation. And meanwhile, we're going to take the kids and you're not going to have any visitation while we do this investigation. And they left the kids with him exclusively, but they court ordered him to have anger management classes, not me, because I didn't have anger management issues, but you leave them with the parent that all of a sudden Child Protective Services has one of the investigators found out that there was a certain type of abuse and we're going to, that he was responsible for possibly, but we're going to leave the kids with that person who is allegedly abusing in this way. That made no sense.
Yeah, they did a lot.
Oh yeah. And from there on, I was not able to communicate with the kids. For 14 years, they were alienated from me. For 10 years, zero telephone, zero.
Are you serious?
In the court order, listen to this. So because this is what is in the court order. I'm paraphrasing, but pretty close.
Sure.
To prevent the kids from being devastated from when they if they were to bump into their mother at Walmart, since the kids want to live with their mother, we are mandating that the mother move 140 miles out of Onslow County, North Carolina.
So they think isolation and separation is to prevent trauma?
Yeah. How stupid is that?
Yeah. Have any of these people been locked up recently that you had in court?
You know,
they're worse than here right now. It's not as bad, although I have been kept from my kids from a substantial relationship. But should at least at best lose their jobs and be garbage men, if anything. Yeah. And nothing against the garbage men in the world.
No,
but they should be working at Walmart selling me groceries.
Right. They should even be at Walmart selling groceries. Walmart,
no, they should actually be tried. They should spend some time in jail, I think.
Yes.
I think these judges and attorneys should spend some time in jail.
Yes. And the Child Protective Services or Department of Health Services representatives who have apparently when you converse with one of the individuals that was responsible for my case, you would have thought, first of all, you have no capacity to judge or to discern. And one of them was enamored with my ex and spoke about it. And she was foolish enough to tell me that, last night I went to the judge's house to talk to him about the case. What? You go to the judge's house?
You can't do that.
with his attorney? She went with his attorney.
Conflict of interest.
And then she proceeded to tell me how my ex is never capable of raising a hand on me or my kids, or she tried to tell me that I never was abused. She said, you've never been abused. Your children have never been abused.
Oh my God.
Ooh, let me tell you.
Yours is stranger than mine.
I tell you what, it was so difficult to swallow. And
you feel like you're in the Twilight Zone, right? You're like
you're in the Twilight Zone.
Who are you people?
And these people are responsible for my children's safety and well-being and placement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and they knew I would fight. They knew I would fight. Okay, now logically, take a look at this. When there is a husband or a wife that beats on the other spouse, they have the victim can put a restraining order against that person and say, okay, stay away from me because you're dangerous.
Right.
The local courts will say, okay, you have just don't go within 1,500 feet. You live in the same town. I had nothing on me against violence. I've never done anything violent.
I've thought about it a lot.
They said I had to move me. I had to pick up and move from where I was, my home in Onslow County, and I had to try to move 140-mile radius out.
That's insane.
Well, then why don't you get me a bus protector? Yes, unconstitutional.
They can't even tell you to do that.
Like, how is it in that court order you're kicking me out of Onslow County, North Carolina, and telling me to move 140 miles out when you can't even legally put a restraining order against me? Right.
You didn't do anything. There's no.
They
haven't tried you in criminal court.
Exactly.
Civil court is where they try people as criminals with judge's discretion. which
Right.
means no evidence, no due process.
No due
But
process, no
the
evidence.
thing is if there's a reason that someone should be stripped of their children, then they should have committed a crime.
Right.
If you never go to criminal court and you've never been in front of a jury of your peers or had due
Amen.
process, then there is no hearsay. There is no behavioral issue. Like maybe you yelled at your kids and the judge wants to use that. Like my parents yelled at me. Do you know how many parents should lose their kids if they smoked a cigarette, let the kids play outside by themselves? Like parents are imperfect too.
Sure.
It's all a racket. It's all a cottage industry. And, you know, people like you, people like me, men, women, mothers and fathers, we are calling out the bad actors. We're doing it right now, folks. Your acting sucks.
Yes.
You know, you're a B-lister at best. And we're coming together. So Adrienne, tell us more about tell us more what happened, because right now your story is insane.
It's insane.
And it probably gets a little crazier.
Oh my gosh. And so in the court order, they also stipulated that I was never, and nobody on my side, thank you, Katrina, I'm seeing these comments going up. Awesome. In the court order, it stipulated that I could never contact police or Department of Health Services or Child Protective Services.
Look,
ever.
You can't get help from people.
Right. Myself or my father, who went through hell and back with me, because he is the most just man with the most humility and integrity of any human being I've ever met on this earth. Yeah. And he and my mom, before she passed away, were not allowed to have contact with my kids. And he's such an honest, and he used to work for NASA, this NASA engineer. His brain works so in such an organized, factual, just manner. Yeah. And he indexed every wrong that they did. I mean, I could put a book out there and a movie, and it still would not cover all the injustices that Onslow County did to me and my children. And so it was just this disgusting one thing after the next. I couldn't even, they said if I were, or my father was to call to do a wellness check on my children at any given time, they would arrest us. They also said I am not ever to phone call them, visit them.
Judicial abuse.
Zero. I said, give me supervised visitation. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I've never done, if you think that I
never committed a felony or a crime or a violent crime, nothing.
Right. If you think I'm so violent or so wrong for my children, give me supervised visitation. If you don't trust me with my own children.
Right.
And here I was.
Which
you're entitled to. Completely stripping me and my children of our constitutional rights to maintain a loving relationship with no merit. There's no due process. Whatever my ex's attorney came up with, all the lies. Ooh, I wish I could spout off his name right now. He's the devil incarnate.
You can. You can legally. Yeah.
Legally?
Legally you can.
Okay.
If they're a public official. You talking about the attorney?
The attorney.
Unless what you're saying is slander, this is the law. True. Unless they can prove that you're slandering someone, meaning saying things that are untrue, which our media and politicians do every day. Slander is illegal, which rightfully so. I guess you don't want to be saying things that aren't true about people and ruining their name, because it can cause danger to people, especially if you say someone's a rapist and they're not, and then someone kills them because they think, So, yes, if it's not slander, it's true. And these judges, these court officials, they're public servants.
Yeah.
So you are free to use this. And as many people see this, my ex's attorney's name and the attorneys that represented me wrongly will be named. My custody trial is in 3 weeks. They're not off the hook yet. So I'm biding my time. I'm focusing on getting my kids, and then I'm going after them. Understand that.
Absolutely.
And I'm suing the county.
Yes, so I'm suing the county. I'm suing the county. It is coming. It is coming.
So go ahead. If you want to tell his name, we share attorneys' names on here all the time. I just haven't shared mine yet.
Okay. Lies, hearsay. There's no due process. And so that's why as someone who was experienced with utilizing the pageant title as a way to get the attention, get the audience of senators, legislatures on state levels, especially, that's where this has to change. That's why I competed again And now that I've won the Miss Utah for America title, I am going to compete at the national level. I'm going to prepare between now and then, got to get super fit in shape because fitness is important. And if we're not taking care of our bodies, we can't take care of business, you know, we need all the energy and stamina because our fight is big. And my goal is to continue to help the organizations that are fighting state by state for legislative reform on the family court systems, child custody processes. 50-50 shared parenting should be the norm. Default. It should be the default, and not the exception.
Right. And attorneys are arguing that, obviously, because they're saying that shouldn't be. First of all, it's our inherent God-given right. So it's our constitutional right. So any argument against that is null and void. You work for us. I don't know if you know this. My tax money pays for judges.
Right.
It's not their courtroom. When you hear a judge say, do not do this in my courtroom, or I won't have this in my courtroom. Mother effer, this is my courtroom. And unless I'm a criminal, don't talk to me that way. And that's where we need to get to.
Yes. And they're so disrespectful. Even when you're respectful, they're so disrespectful.
Oh my
once
God.
they have sided with someone, they will put you down like nobody's business. And here I was, and I'm strong now. I don't know if you can imagine, I was the full-blown doormat.
Right.
I was the full-blown little law-abiding citizen, but I knew the legislative process, and I knew that they were doing things that were absolutely illegal, unlawful, immoral, and unconstitutional. And I said, one day after all of this alienation, because I kept trying to fight, got nowhere. Eventually, I had to wait until my children graduated, or actually turned 18 and graduated from high school, in order for me to be able to make contact with them again.
Wow.
And in the process, on the day that they took away custody and said, no, for now, no contact with the mother, my frontal temporal lobe blew. And immediately that day, I fell on my knees. Like, it was so unbearable that they were cutting off anybody I come from the most loving family, supportive environment, the community and the island community I grew up with, and every place that I've been, I have so many wonderful friends that are so supportive and loving. And any of them can tell you, I am not one of those I'm not one of those that likes contention. I'm such even till today, but because of what I went through, once you take away my kids, nothing can hurt me.
Gloves are off, kids.
Gloves are off. Gloves are off. I have never experienced such excruciating pain. And because of that, they think, oh, we've got them. And what's so sad is that it made me stronger. And I knew that I would eventually survive. The excruciating pain would end to some extent, but they stole my motherhood. They stole my children's mother away. They stole their childhood and their innocence. Yeah. I cannot imagine not. And they have the repercussions of years without dad or years without mom. And that is such a huge gap. And it is statistically proven now. I mean, they have done so much research. They have so many studies now, thankfully, over the past several years, especially. Over the past 30 years, they started building up more research. But over the past 10 years, especially, tremendous amounts of research. Our children grow up to have severe depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, self-loathing, on and on and on. I can list in some of these studies, there are like 200 different kinds of symptoms that are negative.
Let's talk about what it's doing. You just said all the mental health issues. We sure are. Oh, and by the way, it's Klonopin or clozapam is the name of the drug that some members of my family are on. Probably from me. It's probably my fault. Cause them anxiety, and I interrupt them. I'm sorry. And then, she's taking it. My ex is taking it too. I was prescribed it actually when this happened at the beginning between the breakup, and I quit drinking and smoking because those things I was using to cope. And, then I was feeling like you, that anxiety, having panic attacks, and I was depressed, and I'd never felt so out of control in my life. And the doctor gave me that. And I think I took one and was like, I don't want this. And I had a cabinet full of prescribed meds because I was telling the doctor I was feeling all this, and I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking, I wasn't doing anything. I was very unhappy. I wasn't working out again. So I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't, you know, and finally I threw all that stuff out. I started to go into AA meetings for a little while. I started working on my spirituality. My relationship with God increased a lot more. And I think that I got my sanity back, not just from the alienation and the breakup and all that, and the stopping drinking and stopping all this, but I think I'd gotten my sanity back from a lifetime of trauma and stuff. And I think I hit a wall. I got on my knees and I said, God, I can't do this anymore. I need your help, because especially now having your kids, it was like losing your mind. And then there's no one to turn to, because there's a criminal justice, family justice system. So they're not helping you. So you're like, you have nobody but God to talk to.
Nobody but God.
That was it. And that's why I'm sitting here right now talking to you, thanking God. And now I get to speak with people like yourself. So God does have a plan, folks. So for any of you who are struggling with depression, you know, Edrienne, maybe give them some of your advice. Like you dealt with a lot of it.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, a lot of people ask me, I have so many individuals that reach out for help now, and I'm so happy to be able to help, because now my two sons are they're adults and they're in college and they're thriving. Of course they're suffering, and of course, because they're adults, their personal story is their personal story, and I want to respect their privacy. But so you know, when they're little and you're going through this and you're completely alienated and cut off from your children, there is nothing for me that could have been more excruciatingly painful in my life. And you want to die. You just want to die. And
well, you don't want to die. You want the pain to stop.
You want the pain to stop. And so what I would do was, I just said, you know, what is the sure thing that helps to release dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins? Serving others. So I volunteered in Alzheimer's communities and daycare centers, and I shared my Hawaiian culture through dance and singing presentations and educational presentations with kids. So whatever your talent, whatever your strength is, really hone in on those things and serve with whatever it is. If you can play the piano and sing, go to a nursing home, go sing once a week. It will help to distract you. And it will help to bring real happy feelings in, because you deserve to be happy and have a healthy balance of happiness and not all excruciating pain. If you are happy, if you focus too much on negative, because there are so many long periods where you can't do anything legally, you're having to wait for a hearing that may be 2 months off or whatever. And how do you keep your sanity? You need to be healthy for your children. You need to be healthy for that court hearing, so you are able to, as the legal officials say, present well. And they don't want you to cry. They don't want you to holler. They don't want you to blame. Then they say you're crazy. So you have to present well, which means you have to go in with no emotion, just matter of fact, tell the story like it is, because they don't care about your crying tears. They don't care that you've been just struggling with the biggest mental breakdown because you've been ripped away. Your children have been ripped away from you. I mean, we're programmed to love and take care of those children. Look at mama chickens. They will fight you to the death to protect their baby chickens.
It's crazy.
That's how we're programmed.
You go into that courtroom and it's business as usual to them. And it's like they have no bearing. They just make decisions and then they have no care in the world about how these parents or kids leave. You know, when I told my judge the first time, and this was like a year or two ago, hey, it's been a year, it's been 2 years. And recently, a week ago, I said, it's been 2.5 years. I've seen my kids 50 days a year. I was like, I miss my kids. I'm unhappy. Like, I'm doing my best and I'm advocating. I tell them about my podcast. I tell them about my music. I tell them I'm doing all these good things. You'd think a good judge would go, yeah, you need your kids. What the hell what are we doing? But no, let's wait 3 more weeks for a trial. Let's so I have no criminal record, right? You can't make a decision in that moment. You know what, Mr. Cole, you've gone 2.5 years for no reason. For the next 3 weeks, you can have your kids until we get to the trial. Okay. Because you didn't do anything, you know, but our system doesn't work that way. It's very slow. It's it's designed that way. And they make it impossible for you to represent yourself by creating so many protocols and proper ways to address things. And because you can't just go in a courtroom with proof and go, look at this. Because there has to be procedures and things followed, but you're not an expert. So what does that force you to do? Well, it forces you to spend money. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a dirty business.
Oh, it's disgusting. And even the Child Protective Services or Department of Health Services system. Yes, absolutely, Claire. Family courts are full of narcissists. That's so true. And what is so sad? I didn't realize that many counties in many states, many counties actually pay their Child Protective Services reps for each placement that they get per month. They give you a bonus. They give you a bonus to rip children away from their families.
It's the same as Title IV money.
What world are we living in right now? Protect children. Make sure that they have equal time with both parents. If there has to be something really wrong, like a really extenuating circumstance, like if there's rape involved or incest or
current violence or drug addict. Yeah.
Yes. Severe kinds of things in order to warrant taking a child away or children away from a parent. And even then, guess what? People go to rehab. I don't do drugs. I don't even drink or smoke.
But people are go allowed to rehab to heal. People are allowed to grow.
Yes. If God can forgive you when you ask him forgiveness, then why the freak can a court not forgive you if you have gone through the rehab and you've come back and said, I'm good now. Look, I've got this report. And I still see people not being able to have their children even after rehab because the court systems want you to continue to fight and pull in the money in, and it exchanges hands. Oh my gosh, it's just disgusting.
And let's not for once pretend that legal officials don't break the law more than regular people. They drink and drive. I had a sheriff. I had the sheriff of my county tell me that he didn't give me names because he didn't. But he could have, and he did tell me that he's pulled over attorneys and judges drunk and brought them home without a DUI. Then those fools go in and hand out DUIs like they're Skittles. You know, they beat their wives, they do drugs. You know, they're the people, even police. That's what I'm not saying. We're not saying all. We're not saying that. We're not saying all parents are bad. We're not saying all. We're saying it happens. We need to remove them and they need to be held accountable. Period. That's what we're saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And one of the things that I'm so happy that, there are some states that I'm helping to draft legislation from the ground up. There are other states I'm supporting legislation that is being proposed. And one of the things that I would like to continue to do, because some states have passed some legislation that's good, but still not all inclusive, but at least it's a start. This year was the first year that we've had momentum with our legislative reform for the family court systems.
Arizona.
And, yes, Arizona,
Kentucky,
Arkansas has
Florida,
the best right now.
Arkansas.
Yes, Kentucky, Florida. And so one of the things that I would like to do is mandate that family court judges and attorneys go through regular continuing education courses on child abuse, on sexual abuse symptoms, on narcissism, parental alienation. A lot of them don't even understand and have a clue about parental alienation and all the games that go on in that department. And they need to be educated on all these related issues that pop up in a child custody process.
In your opinion, how much do you think this is an education issue versus a corrupt, just terrible system? Like how many bad decisions are you think are being made because they don't know?
Yeah. I would guess that it is an extremely high number due to ignorance. However, because I have seen really great parents, really great parents, who have fought and have even gone out of their way to educate the system and people involved in the system, and still have their children taken away and ripped away from them. That gentleman, even in Fort Worth, Texas, what is his name? Oh, shoot. Anyway, he keeps trying to educate the judges and the attorneys and sending them messages and saying, please, this is what's going on. And he spells it all out, and they're still not not
look at the data,
listening.
look at the statistics,
Look at the data, look at the statistics, look at exactly what's going on. So I believe there's a high percentage of the officials who act out of ignorance. And they that's why I want in all the state reform, legislative reform, to mandate these judges have to, on a regular yearly basis, go through some CEU credits where they have to pass and go through these courses about narcissists in divorces and parental alienation in all of its forms. And, you know, I've got lots of great books that I've bought, and I don't know if you can see this one. This one is amazing for judges, officials, attorneys, medical professionals, counselors. Oh my gosh, it is amazing. This one is by, let me see. It's called Parental Alienation, the Handbook for Mental Health and Legal Professionals.
Maybe I'll get that book and give it to my judge on the day of.
I know. It's ridiculous. It has all these different case studies. It has the studies of the children and how they react in all these different horrific situations, and how they suffer even after as adults for the rest of their lives unless they get appropriate trauma therapy. And it's the research. This is out there now. You know, I've got probably about 12 parental alienation books that are great for judges and attorneys to read. But
would you say that's one of your favorite?
This is one of my favorites.
And what's it called? Just Parental Alienation?
Parental Alienation, the Handbook for Mental Health and Legal Professionals. Okay. And it's edited by, I don't know how to pronounce this. It looks Greek, a Greek name, Demosthenes Laurandus, William Burnett, and S. Richard Sauber, Sauber. But any official that is dealing with the life of a child and the future of a child and the placement of a child, until we get 50-50 shared parenting on the books for all families as a default, they really need to take this into account and really, really stop and think, is it necessary to take children away from one of their parents? No.
And as you in your own personal experience can admit, and me as well, is many of these current professionals in the industry, whether they be GALs, attorneys, judges, child support agents, they are products of the system that's designed to extort and destroy. So they are not educated. They are biased. Some of them are good people in a bad system. So they're doing bad things and they don't even know. And you can tell them this and they're in denial.
Total denial.
But it's crazy to me that in 2021 that we have to even talk about, after the women's rights movement, civil rights movement, everything that talk about immigration and all these policies that we do to protect, they have honed in not just on the Black family or just men and women, but they have figured out a system that divides families, because I think they figured out that's the quickest way for government. I'm a libertarian. I talk about libertarian principles. We're moving into a socialist, democrat, this liberal agenda, this thing that we're pushing for equality, but it's abuse disguised as equality. I'm telling you guys this right now, and Adrienne, I don't know where you stand politically.
No, I agree.
But this equality movement is a mask for government control. I'm telling you, if you are pro-socialism and pro women's choice, first of all, ladies, you made that choice when you had sex. Your choices are over. Okay? You get pregnant, you have a baby. Okay, you can give it up for adoption. There's a choice, if that you so choose. Or if your health is threatened, by all means. I don't want two people to die. I don't want anybody to die. There are hard decisions that need to be made. But you made your choice. In the when we get into the issues of rape and other things, and I never talk about abortion, but I'm doing it with you because, I don't know, I'm hoping you share my my feeling on it. I am very pro-life. When I found out my ex was pregnant, I was immediately scared. I did not want to have kids with her. She was already showing signs that I ignored. And I was like, well, we're not having a baby. And since my son has been born, and I'm going to be honest to him about this, that was that's the biggest thing I ever regret, was just being ignorant and I thank God every day for not letting that happen, for proving me wrong. And I share that message for those who are pro-lifers. And again, I do know that there is open discussion to certain other aspects, but abortion is not birth control. Period.
I wish people would really make better decisions so that they don't have to make that decision, or don't feel compelled to make those hard decisions. I agree. Be responsible to begin with. Just be responsible. I agree. I was
irresponsible. Yep.
Oh, because life is so precious. It is so precious. And you know, I always try to promote adoption as well. And
absolutely.
I respect women's rights to choose. But me personally, I love the idea of adoption. And there's so many people who cannot have babies. Like,
we take for granted that gift.
Please consider it. You know,
now I don't want to have any more kids. I have my 2, and it's been a battle. God gave me these 2 children, I think on purpose. Like I said to you earlier, we've gone through our stuff, and we've been able to fight through it. And we've been on our knees, and we've prayed, and we've struggled, and we've therapied, and we've had to rebuild ourselves so that we can become strong advocates that are unwavering. So, you know, that message is very important that we're trying to share with you guys also, and talk about your pain. Men and women. Okay, guys, talk about your pain. And if someone says you talk too much, or they don't want, talk to somebody else. Okay.
Talk to somebody who listen.
Yeah. That person doesn't care about you or really anyone.
Oh, because gosh. Yes. And please don't ever tell someone, like when I was going through this. So now, you know, I'm able to talk about it, like, and smile about it now, because my kids, I finally have contact with them. So life is different. And I see my oldest son every day. And so life is just wonderful, because I'm over that tremendous pain and that, you know, that inferno of horrid
rage,
existence, and rage, and unfairness, and pain. So don't ever tell a parent, oh, just wait until they're 18 and then you get to see them again. How about we take your kids? How about we take your kids away and then you not see them for another 14 years like me? And
I'm so glad you said this.
And then I'll just say, oh, how about you just wait till they're 18? No big deal.
You know what? You don't need fatherhood or motherhood. You're good. You can tell them all about it, and then they'll love you when they're grown-ups, and they don't want to spend that much time with you anyway.
Let me tell you.
What an absurdity.
You just want to smack them. You know they don't know what to say, but when they mean it,
oh my God.
Like, oh,
they'll see it when they're older.
Yeah, you get to see them when they're 18.
It's like someone saying,
my kid hasn't stepped into kindergarten yet. I missed their first tooth. I missed everything. Right. Like, how dare you say that to me? That's so hurtful. Just support someone by saying, give them a hug and say, what can I do to help? You know,
it's like telling a person who has teenagers that don't want to spend time with a parent anymore, and they'll go, oh, don't worry, they'll miss you when you're dead.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of answer is that? Oh, don't worry, you'll get justice when all of the abuse is over.
Yeah.
Okay, great answer.
Just hang on.
I speak to fathers all the time, and I see literally they downward spiral, especially men. I speak to a lot of men about this stuff, but I see where their life took a turn, and they never identified their pain. They just dealt with it. Even I've spoken, and you know, God knows I love them, but I've spoken to my brothers before, and they have just said some dumb stuff. Dumb, like, just pay your child support and see them when you can and quit bitching.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I had to pay child support. I paid child support.
Who are you?
My last child support check went out this past year in August during COVID 2020. So from 2006 all the way till last August. And I guys, I know what you're going through. I know when you have to have 2 jobs or whatever, and
or live at your parents. This is my dad's house.
Live at your parents.
Yeah, I've been here for 2 years.
But that's why I advocate for 50-50 shared parenting, because as a parent who's had to pay child support, the other spouse doesn't even care. They don't care that you're struggling, or
can't afford,
you know, if you go through hard times, they don't care.
If they can't afford their kids, then they shouldn't be the ones that have them. Why are you giving financially unfit parents children and then putting them on welfare and child support?
Yeah.
Being financially fit?
Yeah, they're probably not the best ones for money and budgeting and, shared parenting. You need both parents. You guys complement each other. No matter how much you hated each other, at one time you loved each other.
Right. Probably when you were making probably when you were making the babies. Loved each other for at least 7 minutes.
Oh gosh.
We're going to edit all this out.
I did not hear that.
We like to have fun on here too.
I'm from Utah.
Earmuffs.
Or I got
headphones on. Earmuffs. Edrienne, it has been great chatting with you.
Right? Oh, great to chat with you, Chris.
This has been fun. So tell us in the next few minutes, what is it you're currently working on? And what you're fighting for legislation. Is that in Utah specifically? You're using your platform.
All across the nation.
What's going on right now?
Yes. So what I am doing is I am contacting senators, legislatures from all of the states that have not had a clear passage of legislation this year. So I'm not worried about Arkansas. I'm not worried about Florida for now, because in states like that have passed recent legislation this year. Put them on the back burner. Arkansas has the strongest legislation for our situation, for preventing parental alienation and for children's rights and parents' rights. Arkansas, I'm very impressed. Go Razorbacks and all of the above, because they're doing a great job. They did a great job this year. So I am contacting all the different senators in the states that I have experienced first. And I'm trying to be a part of that fight first, but I'm helping each state, and we're going to tackle each state and lobby in each state. And so one of the things that I'm doing is I'm also reaching out to corporations to get some really good pro-family sponsorships from different corporations out there. It doesn't matter who you are, if you're a family-oriented corporation, or if you just care enough about preserving the family unit, even after divorce, by supporting fair 50-50 shared parenting and our legislative cause, then we need funds. We need funds to be able to shuffle us to all these different states. There are some of us groups that I'm going to be latching on to lobby and continue to lobby. There are several groups out there that have lobbied to about 24 to 26 states already. So we're focusing on the other half, and that's where my focus is. And so we always need airplane tickets. If there's an airline, Southwest, American, anybody want to, there are those of us that need to physically get to different places. And, we spend a lot of our time advocating for specific individuals' cases. And I'm helping a lot of individuals in their specific cases that have just extreme injustice. And it's so obvious that, you're just wanting to shake the judges and say, what are you doing?
I've felt that.
So I'm trying to make headway with individuals and with states, and I'm going to be continuing the rest of this year to utilize my title. Hopefully I can fare well at the national, but I'm definitely going to use my state title as well to gain that platform and that audience, so that I can go to the different states. I'm coming back home to Hawaii. There are so many individuals there that have been reaching out to me and saying, we're going through what you went through, and I want to be able to help everyone. And so, working on the latter half that have not had the lobbying efforts completed yet.
Is there a place that you would like anyone to either go find you, reach out to you, or donate to you that I can pop up on the screen in particular, like a website or something?
Sure. If you'd like, even Venmo is fine, because I can promise you that I will give you a receipt as well, so that that it will make it tax deductible, because I'm going to create this organization so we can give the receipts as a tax deductible donation, a nonprofit organization. But if you wanted to Venmo or just reach out to me on Facebook, my name is
your Venmo
weird,
handle?
but you can see it. It's at Edrienne-Edwards, and so it's really easy.
It's your name.
It's my name, yeah.
Edrienne dash.
The little straight little hyphen.
Gotcha.
The little dash
Edwards. I'm just typing this up. I want to make sure it's right, so I can put it up on the screen for you.
And I guarantee you, it's going to the parental alienation lobbying cause, and we are we're trying to hit the ground running with the momentum during my current title, in case I wasn't to win the national pageant. But I'm going to fight for that national title because, like I said, the national pageant titles do bring legitimacy, because people will listen. They'll say, okay, if she was intelligent or articulate enough to win the judge's interview on a national level and have this much passion, maybe she's worth rallying behind and supporting in her cause.
Do you have any fear in your I don't know if you consider pageantry an industry, that there's a lot of corruption in that? As far, do you think that they would silence you from a victory if you were pushing for this in any way?
Not at all. They're very supportive. And I think it's all in the presentation. I don't want to go out ever attacking, I don't want to be attacking my ex. And I don't, there's just some things that are matter of fact that occurred that I shared with you that are more personal, that, I personally don't want to have to come out with all the details. If somebody individually asks me, though, I have no problem being honest, because that helps. And that's why we find ourselves in these situations in the first place. It's because we're not sharing information and experiences. And when you don't speak up, the broken system will never, ever be fixed.
Well, they want you to be quiet.
Yes. And they've done, they'll do gag orders and all that, gag this, and they've closed my case.
They'll violate your freedom of speech.
Yes. And they sealed my entire case. So I can't even have access to it.
All illegally.
Oh,
they didn't follow any legal protocols. They just do whatever they want. And that's what we're doing. We're on here to tell you that the people in the legal system are breaking the law every single day. They violate your rights every single day, and we are holding them accountable. They were trying to silence you. They'll put you in jail. They'll take away your kids. They'll try to hurt you. They hope you put a gun to your head, really. They really hope that you end it for them. And we're not doing that.
Right.
Not going away, kids.
It's awful. It is really, really awful. But I would love any support, because the more financial, and unfortunately, it takes money to get to these places, and it takes money to be able to it's unfortunate. And so, but I am dedicating as much time as possible, all of my time. The more funds and sponsorship money that people like myself can get, the more full time I can go on this situation and fight. And if you want me to fight in your specific state, do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I can put that higher up on the list of states to go to, because I am vocal. I have been through it like you have.
Where do you want them to message you? Where's a good place that someone could speak to you if they just want to, send you money, but maybe they want to talk to you first? A lot of people don't just send money. Yeah. Facebook Messenger.
And I have a lot of advice to give. And
do you have a page as well as a private page?
My page is Edrienne Edwards. So look at that spelling right there, type it in, and I don't mind. And if you have questions about your situation, I have a lot of people that reach out. I apologize if I haven't gotten back to some of you that have had some questions that you wanted to ask. I will get back to you, because I know what it's like, and you need to rally around. We need to rally around each other and support each other every which way we can.
Absolutely.
And I'm thinking about turning this into a full-time job.
Let's do it. Right now I'm working 2 jobs and doing this for free.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No kidding. I should get me a law degree. I always thought about it once I went through this situation. So
yeah, I probably will. If I win my court case by myself, I'll probably go be a lawyer after this. Yeah. It's fun making a seasoned attorney shake when you're talking and frustrate him. Trust me, I made mine. He was angry that I was, I guess,
knowledgeable,
able to speak. Yeah. But anyway, Edrienne, thank you so much for being on here. We spent an hour and a half together. So that was nice. We'll chat later. If I can help you out in any way, we'll get you back on the show. We'll talk about how Hawaii is a big corrupt thing too, and how it was taken over by the aliens. And that'll be a separate show.
That is definitely a separate show.
and thank you so much for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
guys, go check out Edrienne. Go check out Edrienne Edwards on Facebook. Send her a message, and if you want to Venmo Edrienne at Edrienne-Edwards, she would appreciate the support, so she can get on a plane and help us end this family law stuff by bringing awareness. So thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Love y'all.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Chris.